Fear. Fear is bad. Fear can make you do silly, foolish things. Fear is the enemy of rational action. In order to combat fear, we have to face up to it directly. This is what I believe. And so one day I did something that I thought I would never do. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. Why? Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? Well, my third quarter at NPS was really, really tough. I was learning a lot of stuff that I really never thought I was supposed to be studying. Getting into all these really difficult concepts of physics and calculus. I was really overwhelmed. I was spending every waking moment of the week just trying to get through the proofs and get through the calculations. And I really didn't have any connection to the material at all. And out of nowhere, someone just asked me, hey, I'm going skydiving this weekend. You want to go with me? Just come on. For some reason, I said yes. Now, I did a tandem skydive, which means that you're actually attached to a professional skydiver, and he actually does all the work, so you just have to go along for the ride. It should be a piece of cake. But why? Why would anyone jump out of a perfectly good airplane? Well, I asked the skydiving pro this, and he just laughed. He said, I get that question all the time. Listen, number one, there's no such thing as a perfectly good airplane. And as a bunch of folks a couple weeks ago found out when they were floating around the Hudson River, that's absolutely true. Number two, you have a perfectly good parachute. Okay. Number three, it's fun. The jury was still out on whether or not it was fun, but I promised myself I wouldn't hesitate. No shaking, no nerves. I was going to do this. And I was fine. You know, they gave me the safety brief at first, and I'm fine going through that. And then the walk to the airplane, I was fine. The ride up to 18,000 feet, no problem. Hey, I've been in lots of airplanes before. I've worn a parachute before. This will be a piece of cake. But as me and my instructor started sliding towards that door, and I sat there, and I looked down at the air below me and the clouds and the Pacific Ocean. What's this I'm feeling? Is this fear? Is what I'm about to do really just a silly and foolish thing to do? Now, these are great questions to ask before you go skydiving. But in my situation, it was pretty much irrelevant because this was a tandem skydive. It didn't matter whether I wanted to go or not. There was a guy right behind me. And he was strapped to my back, and he weighed 200 pounds. One. And all he really wanted to do, two, was to go ahead and jump. Okay, the first 2 seconds, really bad. But I had heard from some experienced people that once you reach terminal velocity, everything changes. Now, I personally would never refer to anything involved in skydiving with the word terminal. But in this case, it actually makes sense. See, terminal velocity is when the force of aerodynamic drag against your body, pushing you up, equals the force of gravity, which is pulling you down. In other words, you're not accelerating, you move at a constant speed, just like if you're in an elevator going a long way down a skyscraper. It felt wonderful. It was like I had landed on a cushion of air. In fact, I had landed on a cushion of air. But suddenly, my fear just kind of dissolved. Suddenly everything was in control, everything was stable. With the help of my instructor, I could spin myself to the left and spin myself to the right and speed up, slow down. I even joined up with another skydiver. And then I looked down, and I saw all those little people below me going about their daily lives, completely unaware that I, like a god, was looking down upon them. And I thought about myself. And I thought about all those calculations and integrations and all the physics. And these were not problems to be solved anymore. The very fact that I was there, peregrinating through the air, without fear, meant that all these problems had already been solved. And I would understand them eventually in turn. And I thought about the rest of my life, all the trials and tribulations of my life. They just didn't seem important from that perspective. From the falling perspective, there was just wind and a sunny day. And then I finished all these thoughts. Tried to look at my watch. Folks up in Marina claim to have the longest free fall of any skydive in the country, and they are not kidding. I was scratching my head. I was like, isn't something else supposed to happen? I wonder if the parachute's going to open. Whoosh, it did. And without the wind, everything got quieter. But in another sense, it got louder. Because I could hear the skydiver behind me now, and I could hear myself talking to him, and I could hear the ocean, and I could hear the cars on Highway 1 below me. And I was back in the real world. So why? Why would anyone want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane? I'll tell you why. You do not jump because of fear. You jump in spite of fear. And fear is the enemy of rational action. So, jumping is a rational act. Jumping makes sense. And you should be no more afraid of jumping than you are of crossing the street, or driving down the road, or getting into an airplane in the first place. Jumping is not only safe, not only fun, sometimes it's just a really awesome thing to do, and it's something you can do for yourself. So who wants to go with me? Toastmaster?